All right, well, thank you for joining us this afternoon. As you can see here, we have a wonderful panel assembled for you today, and we're really excited to talk with you all about some creative and innovative collaborations across the state, both statewide and locally and regionally in the north, south, and central part of our state. Born and raised in Monmouth County, Central Jersey does exist, and it's very important to me. So my name is Jackie Bavaro. I work with the Food Research and Action Center, and I have the privilege of managing the New Jersey Food Security Initiative. So I'll talk a little bit about that today. But first, I want to introduce you all to our phenomenal panel. And apologies, I'm going to read their bios from the paper so I don't leave out any of their important accomplishments or accolades. So first, right here on my right, we have Jennifer Salt Taylor, who joined the Family and Community Health Sciences Department at the Passaic County as the Passaic County Educator in May 2023, where her work focuses on nutrition security and food systems. She is a registered dietitian and certified health education specialist. She provides nutrition and wellness trainings for community members of all ages, collaborates on school garden projects and more, and having known her for a long time, she is a true innovator and collaborator. Next, on Jen's right, we have Rusha Gadre. Rusha is the Director of Food Security with the New Jersey EDA. Rusha is passionate about fostering about fostering healthy, vibrant food systems for all, because food is a connection between people, culture, health, the environment, and economic development. This purpose has led to her leadership in roles in nonprofits and government, where she designs equitable and scalable products that deliver for the customer while enabling individuals, businesses, and communities to thrive. Through balancing meaningful partnerships, motivating teams to address complex and worthy opportunities, and leveraging expertise, she has led and continues to support several strategic initiatives that build the capacity of nonprofits, improve access to emergency food programs while reducing food waste, and strengthening food security initiatives and eliminating food deserts in New Jersey. She's worn many hats in her career, but the one that she continues to enjoy wearing the most is being a systems thinker and connector at the intersection of food and community. Prior to joining the NJEDA, Rusha was the Senior Director at United Way of New York City, where she focused on capacity building, network building, and improved access to emergency food supports. Rusha was the Director at Mercer Street Friends Food Bank, where she oversaw federal, state-funded emergency food programs. Rusha received her bachelor's in science from the University of Mumbai and master's in science from University of Georgia. Thank you for joining us today, Rusha. And last but most certainly not least, we have Angelica Pozzoli, Research Assistant to Dr. Sarah El-Nakib on the Empowering Community Through Food Systems Project. Angelica is a registered dietitian nutritionist and a PhD candidate in the Department of Nutritional Sciences at Rutgers University, New Brunswick, where she researches effective behavior change outreach. In January 2023, Angelica began her part-time role as content coach on the Reach Food Security Collaborative Learning Table, where she works with Dr. Kara Cute and a team of academic and community leaders to inform grant funding priorities in the food system space, and collaboratively works with Janine Cava and the New Jersey Food Democracy Collaborative to put on today's conference. In July of 2023, Angelica began her specialty rotation in food policy and advocacy with Dr. El-Nakib in partial fulfillment of her dietetic internship. During this rotation, she had the opportunity to work closely with our fellow panelist, Jen Salt Taylor, on the SNAP-GAP project, which you are all in for a treat to learn more about today. Today, Angelica is here to present updates from the field on the Empowering Community Through Food Systems project, a food systems data dashboard on behalf of Dr. El-Nakib and New Jersey's Food Democracy Collaborative. So a warm welcome for all of our wonderful panelists. All right, are we ready to get into the good stuff? Okay, so I'm going to speak very, very briefly about the New Jersey Food Security Initiative, and then we're going to hear from each of our panelists more specifically about their initiatives. And please stay with us through the entire session. After Q&A, we really want to flip the panel, so to speak, and have you all serve as our panelists, because we'd also love to really facilitate some discussion around what work and projects and collaboratives you are all a part of. Okay, so for those of you who haven't yet heard of us at the New Jersey Food Security Initiative, we are led by the Food Research and Action Center with funding and support from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And thank you, Marco, for joining us today and for your support of NJFSI. NJFSI has 3 key goals, which you can see here broadly in New Jersey. A little bit of background of where we got to where we are in the launch of NJFSI. We did tons of network groups, focus groups, learning from our partners and from all of you on the front lines. I see some of you in the room who were part of those work groups and focus groups and helped us develop our landscape analysis and report. If that's something you haven't read yet, I'd be happy to share it. And we will really be using that roadmap as we move forward the launch of NJFSI. From all of those landing phases and planning processes, we've come up with these 3 central goals and priorities of NJFSI: enhancing cross-sector coordination, leveraging current policy and program opportunities, and maximizing equitable food purchasing. Now, how in the heck are we going to do all of those things? There are 3 key activities of NJFSI. I think the one that people keep asking me the most about is the grant-making opportunities, which you'll hear more about in 2024. Sorry. But what I'm most excited about is the opportunities and capacity we have to provide technical assistance and capacity building support to not just grantees, but other partners in the New Jersey network and in the New Jersey food space. So if that's something you're interested in or have ideas around, please do connect with me. I'd love to learn more about the needs you're seeing on the ground. Here's just a little bit more detail on the different types of grant-making opportunities that'll be coming forward from NJFSI, and if you're interested in learning more, please feel free to connect with me afterwards. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through it all. And here's just a broader look at our timeline. We've done lots of planning leading up to 2023. You'll see opportunities for funding come out in 2024 in the early winter, and we'll really begin full swing implementation this upcoming spring. So without further ado, I am going to turn it over to our first panelist, Jen Salt-Taylor.
All right, thank you, and hello, everybody. I am here, I'm gonna go up there. I'm gonna drop everything. You take that one, great. All right, let's try it again. Hi, everybody. I'm Jen, and I'm here to talk to you about the SNAP Gap project. All right, so this was our research team. It started, I will admit that I came in pretty late. I started in May and the project was already underway, so I kind of jumped in and hit the ground running with this one, but here's the full team. So it takes a full team here at Rutgers to make this work. But the basis of this project was we worked with the Office of Food Security Advocate, so we have Jamel in the room. We also have, you just met Mark before. And what we did was we wanted to look at why families that have children enrolled in the free and reduced price lunch program at schools are not enrolled in SNAP. So we did this through caregiver focus groups. We did this with schools in partnership with the schools, 6 different districts across the state, 4 of which are in the north. So I'm here representing the north. I'm a Passaic County resident and have been for a while, so I'm here to represent the north. We also did it with interviews from the SNAP administrators at the Board of Social Services in those counties. And we also did it through promotional events at the schools. We'll talk a little bit more about those in detail. But just wanted to kind of focus on what we learned from these groups. So the awareness and understanding of SNAP from the caregiver's perspective was very interesting. What we learned is they learn their information through word of mouth. So they're getting information from friends, relatives, new folks they just met about what SNAP is, how much money they can receive. Very few people were aware, if anybody were aware of the $95 minimum. So that was a very interesting perspective. Issues with this SNAP application process, we came across a few. Some folks were really nervous to use the online application. Some folks did not like going to the Board of Social Services offices. So there's a lot of different things. There's a lot of documentation that they weren't sure how to get, what to get, that sort of thing. And their perspectives on school and SNAP were pretty interesting in that privacy was really paramount. So they did not want necessarily other families in the school or necessarily the school administrators and teams to know that they were applying for SNAP. They were willing to have SNAP navigators at the school if it was a kind of a private setup appointment, so that sort of thing. With the SNAP administrators, we learned that they thought that there was also issues with the application. So they had issues with translation and understanding of the application from folks applying. They also talked about their systems didn't actually talk to each other. So they have a lot of different systems in the Board of Social Services, and in order for them to get an approval through for the SNAP process, they had to use all these different systems, and they didn't talk to each other. And schools and SNAP, there was something that they didn't really know if schools had the capability or capacity to do SNAP promotion, so it was kind of interesting to see what the Board of Social Services thought that way. So just kind of quick, some things, recommendations that came out of this were streamlining the SNAP application, increasing SNAP promotion, and ensuring that all outreach is accurate. So a big part of this was, where is that information coming from? How is it getting to the community? Is it accurate? And then promoting SNAP in schools in a stigma-free, private kind of manner. We do want to thank everybody that participated for their honest opinions. We had a few readers in this room. Some our readers of the report were here. And the Department of Agriculture for their support. And we are continuing this next year, or this year now. We're increasing to 10 more districts. So this is our current project team. If you have any questions, we'll be up here. All right.
Thank you, Jen. And next up, we have Arusha with the New Jersey EDA.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rucha Gadre. I'm the Director for Food Security at EDA. I'm excited to be here and share what we at EDA do. I know we were supposed to pick a region, and I did pick South, but just disclaimer, we work across the state, North, South, North, Central, South. In every county, every municipality, you'll see something that we've done or hear something about our work that will be done in the future. So for many who may or may not know EDA, here's a quick slide. I know we have to be on time, so I'm not going to read it, but we are the state's economic development authority, and we focus on bringing in businesses, but many of you might think about, how does food security play a role in this? So we've taken a different approach at the food security or the security or empowering the state to become more economically stable, which is looking at the very fabric of what the state is and how do we help people meet some basic needs, which is access to consistent access to fresh, nutritious, and healthy food. So hence, economic security and food security is a big component of our work at EDA. This slide is one that summarizes what we at EDA under the Food Security Department have been doing. So in the Food Desert Relief Act, which was signed by Governor Murphy, gave EDA access to $300 million. That's a lot of money, big responsibility. Most of this money, $240 million of this, sits in the form of tax credits. When I joined the team, I was like, wow, this is exciting, a lot of money, but it's not cash, it's tax credit certificates. So the way we access this money is either by selling the tax credits or making those tax credits available for the initiatives that we would launch in the upcoming years. How have we spent some of this money and how do we plan on spending most of this money is, if you look at, one of them is like Sustain and Serve New Jersey, which I think most of you know of, or if you don't know about it, you'll learn about it in the next few slides. We also have the Food Security Planning Grant, the Food Desert Relief Act itself, FRIDGE, which is the Food Retail Innovation and Delivery Grant, and then the CSIT Food and Research and Agriculture Grant. So what is the Food Desert Relief Act? This allows us to access the $240 million in the form of tax credits to either facilitate the development of new grocery stores or help the operations of some of the existing grocery stores. It also allows us to strengthen existing programs in the community by equipping them with necessary supports. It will help us to bring a major shift and aid the existing retailers and even the smaller food service providers in constantly adapting to the shift in e-commerce that we have seen since the pandemic. And then last but not the least, help us figure out, are there other innovative models that have been proven successful across the country that we could bring to New Jersey, pilot them, see if it's worth investing in them, and then potentially scale them. So all of this, accessing the $240 million came with it comes with many conditions, but one of them was designating food desert communities for the state of New Jersey. What does that mean? So back in 2021 and then early 2022, we came across a few definitions of food desert communities. We found them very limiting, and certainly as you look the data behind those definitions, it wasn't encompassing all the factors that one should consider when it comes to defining and designating communities for the state of New Jersey. So in partnership with DCA and Department of Agriculture and also the community residents or residents of New Jersey, we were able to figure out how many different factors signal, and this is a new term that you'll hear today, but very widely used across EDA, food deserty community is. So there were 40 different factors that played a role in identifying or signaling to us that, hey, this should be considered as a food desert community for the state of New Jersey. These variables were weighted across each other, and so there was a very sexy formula that DCA came up with that helped us sort of rank the 50 food desert communities. There were 5 main buckets of data sets. One was the food retail environment, the demographics, the economic factor, health factor, and community factors that play a role in showing us or signaling that this is a food desert community. Our communities are across the state. We have more than 1.5 million New Jerseyans living in food desert communities. We have our food desert communities includes sometimes a portion of it, not all of the municipalities. So there's more information available on this on our website. These slides will be made available, so you don't have to take notes or pictures of the slides. You'll have this with you. So then the next was, okay, now we have the food desert designations. What do we do with it? Our first approach was the Food Security Planning Grant, and we were able to access some dollars through the Economic Recovery Act and tie those dollars to a distressed asset. We saw and have been seeing since the pandemic, and even before that, that some businesses just cannot sustain, and so they just close and the storefront it just sits there with no use or no plan to move forward. So our idea around planning grant was, can we leverage some of these dollars and these assets to think about how do we improve food access and food security for these communities? So we were able to come up with a planning process, a planning grant process, where municipalities, economic redevelopment agencies, or city government could apply in partnership with community residents, propose a plan that would help improve the access access to nutritious food or food in general to that food desert community. So we have active grants that are being implemented currently, and as you can see, we have one in across the state. So we have a couple in the north, some in the central, and then some in the south. And these some of the quick run on these would be running a feasibility study, seeing what kind of grocery store would be ideal for that community. Is a food co-op something that the community would like? Is a food hub something that would generate more employment opportunities and also boost economic development for that city? So those are some ideas that were proposed and are funded, and we are now just 2 or 3 months into it, some a little bit more, but we'll share more hopefully next year when the plans are concluded. Sustain and Serve, our flagship program, and everyone, or as Governor Murphy has said, it's a win-win-win. It truly has been that way. This was a byproduct of the pandemic, where we saw that restaurants had to close their doors because they couldn't keep up with their bills, but not having the revenue coming in. So, and we saw that the number of people who were requesting food assistance had increased. So the idea was that we would fund nonprofits to purchase meals from restaurants and distribute those meals in the communities. This program was a $2 million pilot program, but we saw the benefit of the program, and we were able to scale it up to $57.3 million through 3 phases and distributed over 5 million meals in the community. And then this is an active program right now, Fridge, or Food Retail Innovation and Delivery Grant. It's a very unique approach at how we envision bringing in food in the community while also ensuring that we bring our retailers into the picture and help improve some of the challenges around access. So this actually came to our mind when we were connecting with a food bank in Texas who uses these kind of refrigerated lockers at a school-based food pantry. So we figured out if this can be done with a food pantry at a school, can we do this with retailers and bring food that the community would ideally purchase online and then just pick it up from a convenient location? So the conditions for this would be that the retailer has to have a store in New Jersey, must accept SNAP benefits, so that way it's more equitable for community residents who rely heavily on SNAP benefits for their grocery shopping. We recently approved a grant for the Newark ShopRite, so you'll hear more about it as we learn how the process of getting the fridge locker where the location is and how the community is accepting or is using the location and the fridge approach on a regular basis. That's pretty much all that we have been up to, except for one more thing about Atlantic City that I'll share as we go into the questions that we'll be discussing later. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rusha. And last but most certainly not least, Angelica.
Thank you, Jackie. Hi, everybody. I'm here on behalf of the Empowering Community Through Asset Mapping and Data Sharing Project. It is a REACH-funded project, so REACH, one of our partnerships today that has put forth this conference. They first funded our project in the spring of 2023, the first round of funding, one of 7 projects. The REACH stands for Rutgers Equity Alliance for Community Health, and it is a grant funding initiative designed to improve health outcomes in economically disadvantaged communities by addressing 5 social determinants of health, including the food security, food access, food security, education, employment, housing, and population health in 3 New Jersey cities, Camden, New Brunswick, and Newark. And I'm here on behalf of Central Jersey, so going to focus on our partnership with Elijah's Promise, who's our New Brunswick community partner, who has helped put on focus groups to develop this iterative process of a food system dashboard. So I am using my handout today for my slides. We are putting together a food system dashboard that, sorry, my brain is scrambled a little bit. It's one of our recommendations put forth on the NJ Roadmap for Food System Reliance, and one of our outlined recommendations and opportunities to move New Jersey towards a more equitable and resilient food system based on input from government agencies, researchers, community-based organizations, and advocates working across all sectors of the food system. So we are in a very early stage of our project. You can see here at the bottom right corner, we have partnered with city-level organizations, Central Jersey being Elijah's Promise. North Jersey, we've partnered with the City of New Brunswick Office of Sustainability, and in Camden, we've partnered with Roots to Prevention. And we have just undergone our first round of focus groups where we have met with city-level stakeholders in New Brunswick, including officials from St. Peter's, Robert Wood Johnson, Elijah's Promise, and I might be missing a couple. But we've met for the first time. It is a group that will be meeting 3 times over to first come together and ask questions on what are our data needs at the city level, so I'm going to outline the questions. What are 3 or 4 critical questions or issues you would like the dashboard tool to help answer or visualize with respect to food security, food access in your city, so in New Brunswick? What do you see as the biggest data information gaps that if we could close for this project, would help with decision making to help reduce food security and or improve healthy food access, and what is publicly available right now. We don't want to duplicate efforts, and we want to know what our partners at these city levels are looking for. And I'm trying to think what else I want to add. I want to keep it brief so we can jump to the questions. Again, very early on in the process. Right now, we're in the process of collecting the data of what they expect and want from us at the city level. We are working with a team here at Rutgers to develop these tools, and hopefully in January, mid-January, we're going to reconvene with our partners and outline a dashboard that will help us answer some questions, taking data to information, creating knowledge, all the way to wisdom, so that we can be more effective with the decisions we make at the city level. Thank you. I want to jump back to Jackie.
All right, thank you so much to all of our presenters. Let's give them a big hand. Now, naturally, my list of questions that I am asking the group has disappeared, but that's okay. My first question, I'm going to really ask broadly to the whole panel, and you're all welcome to chime in. The real focus of this session here this afternoon is to talk about innovative collaborations and partnerships. So I'd love to hear from each of you how your initiative really centers around those innovative collaborations and partnerships, and what that looks like specifically in your regions and with regional partners. So whoever wants to volunteer to go first.
Is this working? Oh, it is. Okay. So our project focused on focus groups. So we don't have access to the families and the communities we were looking for. So schools naturally were our partner and became the kind of hub to recruit the families that we were looking for, very specific families that are enrolled in the free and reduced price lunch program, but not in SNAP. So that was really our strong partnership. And then we're not the experts on promoting SNAP. We have some SNAP navigators and some SNAP Ed teams in the room, so they are the experts. So what we wanted to do was connect them with the experts. So as Jackie probably knows from knowing her for years, I don't like to do what I can't do, so I like to connect the people and make sure that they can provide services to each other. So that was kind of our main thing, working with the schools to recruit the families and the SNAP teams to promote the program. What I would say is making sure that we had clear communication and statements of work between all the different partners to make sure that we were all kind of stayed in our lines and we're very clear from the beginning with our transparency, everything. And then making sure that we were flexible. If anybody's ever worked in a school district, things change quickly. So we've had changes of schedule with focus groups. We allowed the schools to use the money very creatively to kind of work with their community to see that what worked the best. And in talking to the school districts, this was kind of one of the best things, because typically somebody will come in and be like, here's money to do this, this, and this. And we're like, it was a little more free this way, so they could work with their families and see what worked best. So trying to be flexible and clearly communicate.
Thank you, Jen. Rusha, you want to chime in on the EDA's work with partnerships?
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, we did the designations, and while all of us at EDA could sit and read literature, we figured that it makes more sense for us to involve the community and hear from them what they would want us to consider when it comes to making some decisions that would only would go throughout the duration of the Food Desert Relief Act, which is 6 years. So we have in the past held listening sessions where we would present our thoughts to the community through the listening sessions, and then wait for their feedback. Some we've received in the form of written feedback, some we've received through those sessions that were held virtually. And we didn't stop there. So we take that feedback seriously. It helped us understand that we need to, increase the population size that we were considering in the food desert designation, and also include some of the qualitative reviews of the grocery stores that exist in areas surrounding the food desert communities, which helped us include a little bit more geographic area in our designation. When we launch a product or a program, the technical term of program at EDA is product, we always have another listening session for the communities to give us feedback, like, is this approach the right approach? So when we did the food desert, one part of the Food Desert Relief Act is the tax credit. So when we made those tax credit regulations available, those were shared widely with industry experts, residents, to get their feedback on, are those regulations the right way of making the tax credits available to whoever, whether it's a developer or a retailer or whoever might access them. So we are not put on the grounds, but we make ourselves give ourselves the opportunity of being virtually present in the community by hosting listening sessions and working across our sister agencies, whether it's DCA, Department of Agriculture, or even with Mark's department, and hearing from them because they've been in the community having listening sessions and work groups. And so what feedback are they getting, and how can we leverage that feedback to design products that make more sense, and what products that are actually required by the communities.
Thank you, Rusha. And Angelica, if you have anything to add on partnerships and that local Central Jersey partnerships.
Yeah, so pretty much echoing what Jen had to say, focus groups has been how we've come to develop our dashboard. It's a tool meant to help municipal and county officials, service providers, community advocates to make data-driven decisions, to better allocate their resources, to have readily available data to measure progress towards goals, and to have data to influence policy and system change. So we've gathered key players in New Brunswick specifically, but again, in all three target cities, Newark, New Brunswick, and Camden. And through Elijah's Promise, we've identified other key players who came to the table and said what they are looking for if we were to create, or now in the creation of this data dashboard. And that's how we've created, or we really put on the pedestal the collaborative efforts between us and our partners at the city level, because like Jen said, we don't have all the answers, and they do. They know what they need, and we're here to gather what they need and put it together on our dashboard.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. And selfishly, thank you on behalf of NJFSI. It's been phenomenal to already be able to start partnering with all of you. And I think echoing what you've all said, thinking of ways we can coordinate and strategize and really align resources to better support not just what we think community members need, but what community members tell us they need, and letting them really lead that charge. In that vein, I'm going to come to Rusha. Rusha, you talked about this a little bit, but can you tell us a little bit more about the work of the EDA and how it really works to uplift the voices and the needs of community residents being served by the different programs?
Sure. So this is my moment to make the pitch and share our Atlantic City, most recent program that we have in Atlantic City. It all started with the planning grant, where we made it a requirement for any entity submitting a grant that they would have a letter of support from the community residents as to what they are proposing is what the community wants. So now in Atlantic City, we have two grants, planning grants. One is for the development of a food pantry through Mighty Writers. And the idea of that is it's not just a food pantry, but it's going to be a center where other services and other benefits can be accessed through by the community members. It's almost of an empowerment center, so there'll be financial literacy, there'll be resources about education, there'll be resources on how you can access local opportunities for training programs. So this was primarily what the community wanted, which the city then proposed to us. So that was a great example for us to look at and say that, okay, if we make grants available with certain conditions, it's not just the entity who wants the funding, but everyone in the community gets involved, and there's more of a, I don't like the word buy-in, but ownership in being successful and making sure that the program succeeds. The other one that we have, and it's more of a collaboration between us and the community members and the entities who've applied, is the second planning grant in Atlantic City, which is the development of a food hub. This distressed asset has been sitting there for over 5-6 years, or even more, 10 years, I believe. It's a great space. If it received the necessary support and love and care, it would become a good food hub where you could access locally grown produce, which Atlantic City doesn't have a lot of local produce, but what I mean by locally is like within the state. They could bring in vendors from neighboring cities to bring in either groceries, pre-made products, and then sell those to the residents of Atlantic City, because there isn't a grocery store right now in Atlantic City. And this is also an opportunity for the local youth to learn how to run a grocery store. So how do you stack shelves? How do you learn to operate the register? How do you learn stacking even the back of a grocery store, because it's like, which model do you use? The first in, first out, last in, last out. So there's many ways in which this is an educational opportunity, and they're hoping that this food hub becomes a co-op where it's mostly owned and run by the locals who have an interest, and the way they've modeled is not like a regular co-op, but it's more of a community ownership model. I can get back to you on that if you have more questions. So these were two unique ideas that we received because we wanted to hear and have support from the community on what would it be to invest in the distressed asset to convert it into a project that's more useful and meaningful for the local community. So that's one way in which we've showed our willingness and our participation and being more collaborative, not just with our sister agencies, but more so with the residents of the city.
Thank you so much, and thank you for highlighting the opportunities and the kind of magic that can happen when we engage youth. I think a lot of the time we forget that they have this untapped potential for excitement and new ideas. And on the topic of new ideas and innovation, I'm going to come to Angelica to talk to us about how your project really focuses on innovative solutions to the challenges facing communities. So if you could talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, it's on now. It's really interesting working with the 3 different cities because you hear different needs. There's a very migratory, transient population in New Brunswick, and we heard from a lot of our key stakeholders that it's really hard to capture their demographic data, and that's something that we want to work on through this project, through qualitative and quantitative data, because sometimes the quantitative data is not enough to capture, since a lot of times, it is a matter of privacy, maybe not like feeling comfortable sharing their data. So there's a gap in the quantitative data, especially in New Brunswick. And to capture that data and kind of marry the two, the quantitative, the qualitative data, to come together and create innovative solutions, overlapping things such as maybe looking at the metrics of bus stops. What is the bus routes? How many bus stops? How does that impact transport accessibility, farmers market availability, markets, seeing all of the data overlapping and creating new solutions by pulling together these data points in the dashboard. And yeah, so that is one thing. And I know Sarah and Yvette are in the other room kind of going further into detail on this project. I think they're in 202 right now. But I know Sarah has been touting that hopefully we pull together an AI function to this where we can sort of generate a demographic data profile for each city for our partners to use in their data needs, such as grant making or their reporting to their grant funders, which I know is a heavy data need for a lot of our partner organizations every year.
Thank you, Angelica. Thanks for uplifting some of those new technologies and new ways we can continue to compile different resources and coordinate and map the good things we already have going and figure out how to better enhance and uplift those. To wrap up our panel questions and before we kind of move things over to our larger group discussion, I'm just going to ask Jen if you could talk a little bit about how the SNAP Gap project and the work you're doing with school districts really works to advance health and food equity overall, with really talking to us about that equity lens.
Yeah. There's a few points I wanted to make here, but in the interest of time, I think I'm just going to do really quickly. The focus groups really became these resource sharing groups, which was really amazing to watch these families that have been in the district for a long time share resources with families that were maybe new, that sort of thing. So that was really amazing. And the long-term partnerships. So if we were able to connect those SNAP navigators, SNAP Ed, all these different resources to the school districts, and we know that that's still going on in the 6 districts that we already worked with last year. So we're really thinking that that's going to bring more equity to those districts because they're going to have those resources available that they maybe did not realize before. But the main point, I think, is that this is really bringing that community voice. So the qualitative data of these quotes from the families to the government officials, legislators. Thankfully, we have the Office of Food Security Advocate. Mark was a frontline worker, so he knows how to bring that information. But this is going to be straight qualitative data from our families in our communities that we can bring to the government level. So we're just really trying to lift up those voices to bring it to policymakers. Quickly, I'll say that.
That was perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Jen. A round of applause for our wonderful panel. And I do believe there are some handouts circulating the room for the SNAP Gap project, the New Jersey Food Security Initiative, and the Reach Data Dashboard. And if you are interested in receiving more or any of the information from any of our presenters, you can reach out to me, and I'm happy to connect you with our presenters and the materials that are, I think they're floating around the room. They might be in the back, but feel free to reach out and I will connect you. We have, I think, 10 to 12. I don't know exactly what time we're ending. Are we ending at 3:10 now? I'm going to go with that. So we have time for questions. And this is also an opportunity to also share about the innovative collaborations and partnerships that you are all a part of. I think there are still mics in the room, but if not, feel free to just stand and be loud if you have either questions for our panel or myself at NJFSI, or if you'd like to share about the innovative collaborations that you are supporting on the ground. So I will open it up.
Or we could just tell stories.
Yeah.
Okay, that works.
Hello. So there are 2 questions in the chat. So the first question is, does the EDA have any projects and or any collaborations that focus on non-urban communities that have issues of food insecurity and are food deserts?
At the moment, the initiatives that we have where we are accepting applications is the fridge, which would only be applicable to the food desert communities. All our grant funding is tied to being spent in or invested in the food desert communities. So if the urban, what was it, the urban?
It was non-urban communities.
So as I said, those 50 food desert communities comprises both an urban and rural. If we get an application, it has to be from a food desert community. It cannot be from one that's not designated, because then that's the mandate on us that invest in the 50 designated food desert communities. So that's an answer, but not an answer to the question.
Thanks, Rusha. Any other questions, or was there another one in the chat from our virtual audience?
Yep. So the other question is, why is Trenton, New Jersey often left out of issues of food sovereignty and justice?
Do any of our panelists want to address that? If not, I'm happy to chime in. All right. So I think a lot of the times funding is allocated to the 5 to 6 cities across New Jersey that we see having the most need. Often Newark, New Brunswick, and Camden rise to the top of having really intense need and continuous areas of disinvestment. Trenton sometimes falls by the wayside by being a slither better off than some of those other communities. So it's a real opportunity for different partners and collaborations to come together and support. With that being said, I know we have some really great Trenton partners in the room. I see the Trenton Health team there. So there is a lot of fantastic work happening in Trenton, and I know our Trenton advocates and anti-hunger champions continually work to bring those resources into the city, and the city of Trenton as well has a pretty good track for working closely with community-based partners and organizations to provide that support, but I think that calls to attention and opportunity for us as advocates to continue to make sure that all of our cities of need that sometimes are just a slither better off than other cities receive same access to resources and programs. So thank you for that question. Other questions from the audience for our panel? Or anybody interested in sharing of the work in their communities and their collaborations and partnerships, as we're really hoping to hear from all of you today. I see some hands in the back. And thank you to our microphone runners. We appreciate you.
I don't know how to look at the most people, which direction to look. My name is Vinny. I'm a licensed social worker, and I work for probably the largest nonprofit mental health care provider in my county, which is Ocean County. I have yet to hear the name Ocean County today, and it's disheartening to me because, you know, I was raised there most of my life, and income per capita, we're number 16 out of all 21 counties. I myself live in one of the lowest income neighborhoods in the county, so I'm all the way down there. So we received a grant from Ocean County, which was leftover COVID money to combat food insecurity in the county. So we have 2 sites. I supervise the Manahawkin site, which is exit 63, Long Beach Island, for reference. And then the other one is in Toms River, like most other Ocean County resources. So it's really important to me that we are able to continue our work because we've probably helped about maybe 500 people in the 2 months we've been in operation on a very small team. We just started getting food through Fulfill, and I'm working on building a food recovery network, which is actually how I know Janine. So I would love to see more grant funding available and partnerships to Ocean County. So if anyone knows of any resources so we can continue our important work, I would love to connect with you.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I think we have another mic in the back.
Henderson, I work with North Jersey RC&D, and I just wanted to plug an opportunity that we have for livestock grazing in northern New Jersey. Some of you may be aware, some of you might not be aware, that livestock grazing, specifically on pasture, is very important, and we have a lot of producers in New Jersey that utilize pasture. And additionally, I know that NJEDA is taking part in at least showing support for a meat processing facility in New Jersey. I'm sure some of you aren't aware that meat processing facilities in New Jersey is quite hard to come by. Most producers in New Jersey have to go to Pennsylvania to get their meat processed. And I just wanted to say thank you for showing support, and hopefully we can get not only a northern New Jersey meat processing facility in place, but a southern New Jersey processing facility as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I see that we're filtering in from the other breakout rooms, so I think do we have time for one more, or we're out of time? We can have time for this one last quick question in the front, and then we will transition over.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for presenting today. It seems from all 3 of your programs that we are optimizing existing programming and existing processes. From each of you, what is, if you had to specify one outcome of interest, what do you feel is the ultimate outcome of interest regarding the optimization of each of your programs?
I see our panel thinking, but I'm happy to start us off in something that I think came up in a lot of our planning discussions. One of the things I think we've all circled around is increased trust of community members in the programs that exist, and increased trust in community members in being able to receive those programs and apply for and be enrolled into those programs in a more dignified way. So I know that's something that came up in a lot of our planning conversations, but I invite the rest of the panel to chime in.
Yeah, I kind of second that, but I add that the streamlining awareness and application for existing programs, which again keeps coming up throughout the day. So making sure folks are aware and know how to simply apply for programs, if available.
I have time for like a 10-second closing thought, and then I'm candy caning everybody off the stage.
I have a quick one. We learned through our focus groups that our stakeholders, our partners in the city of New Brunswick and the other two cities, aren't so much interested in data for their reporting because it's a very minuscule piece of their work, but sometimes they don't have like a directory of where to send people in need. So they might have a pantry that's open certain hours, that they might run a certain group that is available at one location of the city, and people are looking for something in another place. So they're looking for a directory. So I think it's important that we give our stakeholders what they're looking for. So it's kind of reimagining what we thought the dashboard was going to look like, and now serving a big part of it's going to be having a directory in the three cities so people know what's available and that they could pass that along to the people, their constituents that come, or their clients that come to their services.
Thank you again to our panel. That's all the time we have.
Yeah.